According to YouTube analytics, 98% of viewers are not subscribed. That's a huge number. By subscribing the channel that is completely free, the Galactic Combat Academy's most decorated instructor was explaining the killing blow that had won the sector wars when a human girl in a coffee-stained jumpsuit walked straight through the quantum-sealed entrance. Sorry. Is this Intro to Galactic History 101? 50 of the galaxy's elite combat instructors froze mid-observation, the secured training hall, where entry required 3 forms of military clearance and biometric confirmation from species capable of surviving Category 9 combat protocols, had just been breached by what appeared to be a lost freshman. Zyl'ax, whose 300-year undefeated record included victories over champions from 47 species, stopped mid-demonstration. His training blade hung in the air as he stared at the intruder. The holographic opponent he'd been dismantling flickered and died. "How did you—" Combat Director Kael'thas started from the observation tier, his 4 eyes widening in disbelief. The door was open? The human girl checked a data pad, frowning. "Room 7B, right? Professor Tavara's class?" "This is Training Hall Omega 7, Zyl'ax said slowly, his voice carrying the authority of 3 centuries of crushing opponents. "Instructor Elite Training Facility. Clearance Level Apex Black." "Oh." The girl looked around at the assembled instructors, each one a master of combat from their respective species, beings who had trained planetary champions and military specialists. "Oops. My bad. Which way to the history building?" A ripple of shocked silence spread through the observers. Then someone laughed. Then another. Within seconds, the entire assembly was caught between disbelief and amusement at the absurdity. "A human," Zyl'ax said, and his mandibles clicked in what his species expressed as contempt. "Lost. In the Instructor Elite Facility." He turned to his audience, playing to them now. "Tell me, small, fragile thing, did you need help finding the intro classes? Perhaps something on basic survival? How not to break your delicate bones?" 101. The laughter grew louder. Emma Wilson, 19 years old and 3 days into her first semester at the galaxy's most prestigious academy, felt her face flush. "Look, I just need directions." No, please." Zyl'ax deactivated his training blade and stepped toward her, moving with the fluid precision of a being who had perfected violence into art. "Since you've joined us, perhaps you'd like a demonstration. Learn what real training looks like?" "I really just want to find my class." "One move," Zyl'ax announced to his audience, blocking her path to the exit. "I'll show our lost human one instructor level technique, so she understands the difference between the introductory courses she'll be taking," he paused for effect, "and the apex of combat science." The other instructors leaned forward with interest. This was entertainment now. Zyl'ax was legendary not just for his skill, but for his teaching demonstrations, his ability to showcase techniques with such control that his opponents understood their defeat before it happened. "I really don't think," Emma began. "Unless you're afraid?" Zyl'ax tilted his head, his translator catching perfectly on the mockery. "It's understandable. Humans are so breakable. Perhaps you should just run along to your introductory courses where you belong." More laughter from the observation tiers. Emma caught sight of instructors recording this on their devices, probably already planning to share it across the academy networks. The lost human in the elite facility. Comic relief for beings who spent their days perfecting the art of combat. She sighed heavily, the sound of someone dealing with something simultaneously annoying and inevitable. "Fine, one move, then you give me directions." Kael'thas stood abruptly. "Zyl'ax, perhaps this isn't—" "It's perfectly safe, Director," Zyl'ax assured him, settling into a combat stance that had been refined over 3 centuries and 47 species worth of opponents. "I'll demonstrate basic deflection and control. The human will learn something valuable about respecting secured facilities." He activated his combat display, a holographic overlay that would show the audience every angle of the technique. Around them, the facility's sensors engaged, ready to record this teaching moment for the Academy's archives. "Whenever you're ready, little human," Zyl'ax said, his voice dripping with the confidence of someone who had never, in 300 years, been proven wrong about combat. "Try to strike me. I'll show you what an instructor-level response looks like." Emma set down her datapad with the careful deliberation of someone who'd rather be literally anywhere else. "Okay," she said flatly, "but I'm going to be late for class." The facility's chronometer marked the moment with perfect precision, a 14:47:23, Galactic Standard Time. The moment before everything the Galactic Combat Academy thought they knew about combat and humans shattered completely. Zyl'ax, who had never lost, smiled at his audience. He had exactly 2.7 seconds left in his undefeated career. Zyl'ax launched his strike with the precision that had made him legendary. A controlled demonstration blow, calibrated to stop exactly 3 centimeters from the human's center mass. Fast enough to seem impressive, slow enough to be perfectly safe. The facility's combat analysis systems tracked every microsecond, T+0,000s. Strike initiated. Projected impact, none. Safety protocols, engaged. T+043s, target displacement detected. Analysis, error. Movement vector impossible given human musculature specifications. T+089s, target position unknown. Visual tracking, lost. Thermal tracking, lost. T+R-156, warning. Primary combatant structural integrity compromised. T+R-53, multiple joint stress alerts. Pressure points, 7 simultaneous. Classification, unknown. T+2.700s combat concluded. Victor, unable to determine. The human girl was, somehow, behind Zyl'ax. He was on the ground, and he couldn't move. Can I go now?" Emma asked, still holding whatever she was doing that had the galaxy's most decorated combat instructor completely immobilized against the training hall floor. The assembled elite instructors sat in absolute silence, the kind of silence that follows when fundamental reality breaks. "How?" Zyl'ax tried to move, tried to apply any of the 17 escape techniques he'd mastered over 3 centuries. Nothing worked. His body simply wouldn't respond correctly. "What did you—" "Look, I'm really sorry about this," Emma said, sounding genuinely apologetic. "You kind of insisted, though? Can someone please just tell me where the history building is?" Kael'thas was staring at his data display, watching the facility's combat reconstruction algorithms fail repeatedly. "The systems can't track what you did." "I just stepped," Emma offered, confused. "You were coming at me really obviously, so I moved, and then you were off balance, so—" "Obviously?" The word came from Instructor Vex Thule, a master of predictive combat mathematics. That was a 7-dimensional attack vector with variable acceleration curves. "It was pretty telegraphed, yeah," Emma said, then paused. "Wait, can he breathe okay? I'm not hurting him, right?" "Release him," Kael'thas ordered, his voice tight. "Now!" Emma let go and stepped back quickly. Sorry. You said one move, so—" Zyl'ax rolled to his feet with less grace than he'd displayed in 300 years. He touched his shoulder joint, his neck, his lower thorax, checking for damage to parts that shouldn't have been vulnerable. "What technique was that? Just basic stuff?" Emma picked up her datapad. "Look, this is really embarrassing for both of us. Can I please just—" "Demonstrate again," Kael'thas commanded, standing fully now. Combat display, full analysis mode. Zyl'ax, standard engagement. "Director, I don't think—" Emma started. "That was chance," Zyl'ax interrupted, his pride overriding the warning signals his 3 centuries of experience should have been screaming. "Impossible to replicate. I really need to get to class." "One more time," Zyl'ax insisted. "Proper combat protocol." Emma's expression shifted from apologetic to annoyed. "Fine, but then someone's giving me directions." This time, Zyl'ax didn't hold back his speed. He launched an instructor-level strike, the kind used to test combat graduates, not demonstrate to lost freshmen. The facility's sensors engaged at maximum capacity. Emma moved. The combat analysis system registered. Alert. Physics violation detected. Alert, kinematic impossibility detected. Alert, leverage point analysis failed. Alert, technique database match 0 of 847,293 known techniques. Time elapsed 1.9 seconds. Victor, human. Zyl'ax was on the ground again, different position, different hold, equally impossible to escape. "Oh, sweet merciful void," whispered Instructor Jotaro, who had trained planetary champions for 200 years. She did it faster. The angle of approach violated momentum conservation, another instructor said, his voice hollow. Her mass-to-force ratio makes no sense. She redirected his kinetic energy using leverage points that don't exist in our combat physics, a third added, pulling up holographic analyses that showed nothing but error messages. Emma released Zyl'ax again and dusted off her jumpsuit. "Okay, seriously, I'm going to fail attendance on my first week." "History building?" Kael'thas wasn't looking at her. He was looking at his personal communicator, his claws moving rapidly. Around the hall, other instructors were doing the same, sending urgent messages, requesting backup analysis, alerting higher command. "You're telling me," Vexthul said slowly, approaching Emma like she might explode, "that what you just did was basic?" "I mean, I'm not great at it," Emma admitted. "I barely passed the self-defense unit in high school. My brother was way better. He actually competed and stuff." The silence that followed was somehow worse than before. "High school," Zyl'ax repeated from the floor, where he'd remained sitting, staring at his hands like they belonged to someone else. "You learned this? As a child?" "Teenager, but yeah?" Emma checked her data pad. "Look, class started 10 minutes ago, and Professor Tavera's supposed to be really strict about—" "Director," Zyl'ax said quietly, his voice carrying none of its earlier authority. "We need to activate Protocol Apex Omega." Kael'thas nodded slowly, his expression grim. "Protocol Apex Omega, reserved for discovery of species-level combat threats." "I just want directions," Emma said, exasperated. Around her, the galaxy's elite combat instructors exchanged looks of profound existential concern. None of them had any idea what they were looking at. But every combat instinct they'd honed over centuries was screaming the same thing. Humans weren't supposed to be able to do this. "3 instructors," Kael'thas announced, his voice carrying across the hall with grim finality. "Simultaneous engagement, full contact authorization." "Wait, what?" Emma looked up from her data pad where she'd been trying to find a campus map. "No, I already—" "Vexthul, Jotaro, R-Hill, engage the human, combined assault. I want full analysis." The 3 instructors exchanged glances. Between them, they represented 847 years of combat mastery across 3 different species' martial traditions. Vexthul specialized in predictive mathematics, defeating opponents before they moved. Jotaro was a grappling master whose species had 6 limbs and could exert pressure from angles most beings couldn't defend. R-Hill practiced momentum-based combat, using opponents' force against them. "Director, this seems excessive for a demonstration," Jotaro began. "She defeated Zyl'ax twice in under 5 seconds. Combined," Kael'thas cut him off. "I need to know if that's replicable against multiple vectors." "I'm literally going to miss my entire first class," Emma protested. "You'll receive academic accommodation," Kael'thas said flatly. "Instructors, engage when ready." By now, word had spread. The observation tiers were filling with additional academy staff, combat professors, tactical analysts. Even 2 members of the Chancellor's security detail had appeared, watching with professional intensity. Emma sighed, the sound of someone dealing with an annoying bureaucratic complication. "Fine, all 3 at once, then I get directions and someone writes me a note for Professor Tavara." "Agreed," Kael'thas said. "Combat analysis, maximum sensor capacity. I want every movement tracked." The facility's AI responded, "Full spectrum analysis engaged, biomechanical tracking active, physics modeling active, technique classification active." recording for Apex level review. Vexthul moved first, his attack calculated 3 moves ahead. Jotaro flanked left, all 6 limbs positioned for grappling dominance. Rahil circled right, ready to redirect any force Emma generated. 847 combined years of experience, attacking in perfect coordination. Emma rolled her eyes and moved. Facility combat analysis, emergency report time, 4.1 seconds, physics violations, detected, 47 known technique. Matches, 0 medical alerts, 14 critical, unable to model human biomechanics. Violation, summary, angular momentum conservation, violated, x12, force distribution ratios, impossible, x8, reaction time parameters, exceed species, baseline by 340% leverage point applications, 23 unrecognized vectors, muscle group activation, accessing non-standard configurations, joint rotation limits, exceeded without injury, center of gravity manipulation, defies current models. Technique, analysis, Instructor Vexthul, defeated via unknown joint lock, 0.9 seconds. Instructor Jotaro, defeated via pressure point cascade, 1.4 seconds. Instructor Arhul, defeated via momentum redirection method, 1.8 seconds. Note, each technique completely distinct. Note, no technique matches any database entry. Note, human appeared to adapt techniques to each opponent's species. Recommendation, escalate to Apex Command. The 3 elite instructors were on the ground in different positions, each immobilized by completely different methods. Vexthul's predictive algorithms had given him exactly 0 useful information. Jotaro's 6 limbs were somehow tangled in a configuration his species' physiology shouldn't allow. Rahil had been defeated using his own momentum in a way that violated the fundamental principles of his entire combat discipline. Okay, note please, Emma said, helping Jotaro untangle himself. And seriously, where's the history building? The observation tiers had gone completely silent. Instructors who'd spent lifetimes mastering combat were watching holographic replays with expressions of profound confusion. The pressure points she used on Jotaro, someone whispered. His species doesn't have those nerve clusters there. She made them exist, another replied, voice shaking. Kael'thas was scrolling through the medical scans, his 4 eyes widening with each data point. The human-utilized muscle groups in combinations our biomechanics database classifies as impossible. She applied leverage at angles that shouldn't generate force. She moved through strike vectors. Our physics modeling says cannot exist. Maybe your models are wrong, Emma offered, checking her datapad again. Class is half over now, by the way. 300 years, Zyl'ax said quietly from where he still sat on the floor. I've studied combat for 300 years. I've mastered 47 species fighting arts. I've never seen anything like what you just did. And you did it 3 different ways in 4 seconds. Different opponents, different techniques, Emma said, like this was obvious. You can't use the same thing on everyone. They're built differently. She adapted, Vexthul said, pulling himself to his feet with visible effort. In real time, to 3 distinct species vulnerabilities, while fighting all 3 simultaneously. How is this possible? Rahel demanded, his voice carrying genuine fear now. What are you? Emma blinked. I'm a freshman, history major. I really don't understand what the big deal is. Kael'thas turned to face the growing crowd of observers. Seal the facility. No one discusses what happened here until I've briefed Apex Command. We need xenobiology, physics, and combat theory experts here immediately. For directions to a building? Emma asked incredulously. No, Kael'thas said grimly. To figure out why our entire understanding of combat is apparently wrong. His personal communicator chimed. The Chancellor's office. Priority Alpha. The message was brief. Explain why my security detail reports a human just defeated 3 instructor elites simultaneously using techniques that violate known physics. Kael'thas looked at Emma, who was still holding her coffee-stained data pad, looking annoyed about missing class. I don't have an explanation, he admitted quietly. Around them, the galaxy's finest combat instructors began the uncomfortable process of accepting that everything they knew might be obsolete, and the human just wanted directions. The Chancellor herself arrived 17 minutes later, flanked by xenobiology specialists and the Academy's chief physics consultant. The training hall had been sealed, with 43 instructors and analysts now crowded into the observation tiers, all waiting for an explanation that made sense. Emma sat on a bench, still clutching her datapad, looking like someone stuck in the galaxy's most annoying DMV wait. Miss Wilson, Chancellor T'Lana began, her tone diplomatic but strained. We need you to explain exactly what training you've received. I told them already. I just need directions to... This is a matter of galactic security, T'Lana interrupted. You've demonstrated combat capabilities that our best experts cannot explain. We need to know where you learned these techniques. Emma stared at her. Galactic security? I took gym class? The silence that followed was deafening. Gym class? Kael'thas repeated slowly. Yeah, you know, physical education. We had a self-defense unit junior year, like 6 weeks of basic stuff. Emma looked around at the assembled experts, her confusion deepening. Why are you all looking at me like that? Basic, Vexthul said flatly. You called what you did basic. Well, yeah. It was literally the intro course. Any human high school student learns this stuff. Emma pulled up something on her datapad. See? It's in the standard curriculum. Basic self-defense and physical awareness. Every teenager takes it. Every human teenager, T'Lana said carefully, can do what you just did. I mean, I'm not great at it, Emma admitted. I got a B-. My brother actually competed in martial arts tournaments. He was way better. I just learned enough to, not be completely helpless if someone grabbed me at a party or whatever. The xenobiology specialist pulled up holographic data with shaking hands. You're saying this is safety training for adolescents? Yeah. Emma was looking genuinely worried now. Is that wrong somehow? Do other species not teach their kids self-defense? Our combat training, Zyl'ax said quietly, his voice hollow, begins with military candidates. Takes decades to master. The techniques you used, we don't even have names for them. Oh, Emma paused. Okay, that's weird. How do you defend yourselves? We're stronger than you, Arhill said, still rubbing his shoulder. Faster, more durable. We use those advantages. Right, but what if you're fighting someone stronger and faster than you? Emma asked. When they stared at her blankly, she continued. That's like the whole point of human martial arts? We developed thousands of years of combat techniques specifically for fighting things that have every physical advantage over us. The physics consultant pulled up a display. Explain, Emma shrugged. Humans aren't the biggest or strongest or fastest things on Earth. We're not even close. But we survived anyway because we got really, really good at fighting efficiently. We had to fight predators that could outrun us, outclimb us, out-everything us, so we developed combat styles based on leverage, momentum, angles, pressure points, using minimum energy for maximum effect. Your planet, T'Lana said slowly, required you to develop advanced combat efficiency just to survive? I mean, not anymore. We don't fight bears and tigers much these days, Emma said with a slight laugh. But yeah, that's where it came from. And then humans spent a few thousand years fighting each other, which made it even more refined. When both sides are equally matched physically, you have to get creative. Kael'thas was scrolling through Earth's historical database, his expression growing more alarmed with each entry. Your species has hundreds of distinct martial arts traditions, each refined over centuries. Thousands, actually, if you count regional variations, Emma corrected. Karate, judo, jujitsu, kung fu, Taekwondo, Krav Maga, Muay Thai, boxing, wrestling. I could go on for a while. What I used was just basic mixed techniques from a couple of them. Mixed, Vexthul repeated. You combined multiple combat traditions spontaneously during a 4-second engagement with 3 opponents. That's kind of the point? Emma looked confused again. You adapt to the situation. That's like day 1 stuff. It took me 70 years to master adaptive combat, Vexthul said quietly. Oh. Emma bit her lip. Okay, I think I'm starting to see why you all freaked out. Zyl'ax stood slowly, his movements careful, deliberate. Your techniques aren't based on strength or speed. No, that's the whole advantage. If you're smaller and weaker, you have to fight smarter. Use their strength against them, hit pressure points, control joints, redirect momentum, efficiency over power. Emma paused. Your combat styles are all really straightforward, like you telegraph your moves way ahead of time because you rely on being fast enough that it doesn't matter. But humans had to assume we'd always be slower, so we learned to see attacks coming and counter before they develop. The training hall had gone absolutely quiet. Every human learns this? Talana asked. As children? Teenagers mostly, but yeah, I mean, not everyone's good at it, I'm definitely not, but it's standard safety education. Emma checked her data pad. Speaking of education, I've now missed my entire first class. Can someone please just tell me where Building 7B is? You said your brother was better than you at this, Kael'thas said, his voice very quiet. How much better? He placed 3rd in the regional tournament his senior year, Emma said. Lost in the semifinals to this girl who'd been training since she was like 6. She was amazing. Regional, Arhill echoed. Tournament for human adolescents. Yeah, there are thousands of those across Earth every year. Different age groups, skill levels, styles. Emma trailed off, seeing their expressions. You guys look really pale. Well, paler. Different colored? Whatever. Talana turned to her security detail. Get me Earth's embassy immediately, and contact Galactic Council. We need to revise human integration protocols across all military and security institutions. Because of gym class? Emma asked weakly. Because, Zyl'ax said, meeting her eyes with something like awe, we've been training our elite instructors using principles that your species apparently considers primitively simple. You just demonstrated that 300 years of my combat mastery is obsolete. Emma opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. So, can I go to class now? Building 7B is across the central plaza, 3rd structure on the left, Kael'thas said finally, his voice carrying the exhaustion of someone whose entire worldview had collapsed in 20 minutes. But Miss Wilson, we'd like you to return tomorrow, perhaps discuss— Oh, absolutely not, Emma said, standing and gathering her things. I'm a history major. History. I'm here to study ancient civilizations and write papers about cultural development, not whatever this was. You could teach our instructors, Talana said carefully. We would compensate you generously. I can't teach what I barely know, Emma laughed. Seriously, I got a B-. I'm not qualified to teach anyone anything about combat. Zyl'ax stepped forward, and something in his posture had fundamentally changed. The arrogance was gone, replaced by the careful humility of someone who just discovered how much they didn't know. Miss Wilson, I apologize for my behavior, for mocking you. I spent 3 centuries believing I had mastered combat, and you demonstrated in seconds that I understood nothing. Hey, it's okay, Emma said, her tone softening. You didn't know. None of you knew. It's not your fault your species didn't have to fight things that could eat you. Would you, Zyl'ax hesitated, choosing his words carefully, would you be willing to share information about where humans learn these techniques? I would like to study properly, start from the beginning, as a student should. Sure, I can send you some links to dojos on Earth, Emma said, pulling up her data pad. Though fair warning, you'd be starting with the little kids' classes. That's where everyone begins. My niece is 5 and just started karate. Your 5-year-old relative is learning combat techniques, Vexthul said faintly. Well, yeah, it's good for discipline and coordination. Plus, it's cute. They wear these tiny uniforms. Emma sent the information to Zyl'ax's communicator. There, that's the school my brother went to. They're really good with beginners. Thank you, Zyl'ax said, and he bowed, a gesture of respect his species reserved for master instructors. I am honored to learn from humanity's traditions. No problem, Emma said cheerfully. Now I really need to go. Professor Tavara's supposed to be brutal about attendance. I'll send word ahead, Talana assured her. You won't be penalized. Thanks. And hey, Emma paused at the door, grinning. Hopefully my other professors aren't as dramatic as you guys. I don't think I can handle another morning like this. She left, checking her datapad for the campus map, just another freshman trying to navigate her first week. Behind her, the galaxy's elite combat establishment began the uncomfortable process of rebuilding everything they thought they knew. 3 hours later, Academy Command Center. The footage had been replayed 47 times. Each replay revealed new impossibilities. The physics consultants had given up trying to make their models work and were now requesting complete revisions to kinematic theory. The council wants a full report by tomorrow, Talana said, rubbing her temples. How do I explain that every human civilian has combat training that exceeds our military elite? You could start with the fact that they don't even consider it combat training, Kael'thas offered darkly. They call it basic safety education. I've been reviewing Earth's martial arts academies, Vexthul said, his voice hollow. There are hundreds of thousands of them. Millions of humans train regularly, many from childhood, and according to their own ranking systems, the vast majority consider themselves beginners or intermediate level. Miss Wilson ranked herself below average, Zyl'ax added quietly. He'd been sitting in silence for the past hour, watching the footage loop. If she's below average, then the average human... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. I'm requesting a sabbatical to Earth, he continued. I want to study at this school she recommended, learn properly, from the foundation up. You'd be training with children, Arhel pointed out. Yes, Zyl'ax said simply, because apparently human children understand combat principles I never learned in 3 centuries. That's not an insult to me, that's just the truth. Talana nodded slowly. Request approved. In fact, I'm sending a delegation. We need to understand human combat culture before we integrate more humans into military and security positions. Too late, Kael'thas said, pulling up Academy enrollment data. We have 47 human students currently enrolled across various programs. If they're all like Miss Wilson... They're probably better, Vexthul interrupted. She said she barely passed. The others might have actually excelled. The implications hung in the air like a physical weight. Revise all combat protocols to account for human capabilities, Talana ordered. Update security clearances, and someone inform the Galactic Defense Force that their human recruits might need different placement considerations. The Council isn't going to like this, Kael'thas warned. The Council doesn't have a choice, Talana said firmly. Humanity's been part of the galactic community for 5 years, and we're just now discovering they're accidentally a warrior species. We adapt, or we stay ignorant. She pulled up the footage one more time, watching Emma defeat 3 instructor elites in 4.1 seconds. At least they're peaceful, she muttered. Building 7B, Intro to Galactic History. 101. Emma slid into a seat in the back, trying not to draw attention to herself being 40 minutes late. Her data pad buzzed. A message from her roommate, Sophie Garcia. Sophie, how's first day going? Emma typed back, weird morning, got lost, ended up in some combat training place, now finally in actual class. Sophie, lol typical. This campus is huge. Get directions? Emma, yeah, eventually. Instructor was kind of a jerk at first, but we worked it out. Sophie, cool. Lunch later? Emma, definitely. I'm starving, She tucked her datapad away as Professor Tavara began the lecture on the founding of the Galactic Council. Ancient history, political structures, cultural integration. Normal, boring, exactly what Emma had signed up for. Much better than whatever that bizarre morning had been about. She pulled out her notebook and started taking notes. Just another freshman trying to survive her first week of college. Behind her, across campus, the galaxy's most elite combat instructors were discovering that humanity had casually mastered what they'd spent lifetimes failing to understand. But Emma had a history paper due Friday, and that seemed way more important. Some things, she figured, were just universal.